Hello and welcome to Unboxed, a show brought to you by the UN Women and, of course, men and boys. I'm your host, Tippy Old, and I am with Mr. Desmond, as always.
I love the energy, Tippy. I love the energy. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, my God,
but
yes.
yeah, thank you for having us.
Now that you're speaking, can you please introduce our guest?
Ordained minister of word.
Yeah, too.
Sasha K.
Yes.
That's what you prefer.
Sasha K, yeah.
Sasha K.
And also, let us not forget the best. The only our ghost lady. Hello, Rururu. Can you hear us?
Oh my goodness.
You're so loud.
Let me lower down.
Hello viewers. Thank you guys.
So what are we talking about today?
Okay, before I get into anything, how are you doing, Sasha K?
I'm good. A little bit nervous, but I'm good. I'm a very shy girl.
Don't worry. This is one of those podcasts that you come and chill.
Yeah.
It's in the kitchen.
Okay.
So just feel relaxed and have a conversation.
It's a good atmosphere to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta be Gucci. Versace.
I love her energy. Please package it for us.
And then Mr. Desmond, how are you feeling?
It's that time of the year where it's quite busy, but yeah, we just had International Men's Day, 16 days, and so it's a bit busy on my side, yeah, but I'm going to be sweating a bit, so forgive me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hot in the kitchen.
We see you cooking something, but okay. Anyway, guys, I want to ask just a general question. How do you feel about compromising?
Compromising as in...
Just in general, like if you had to compromise either your work or your relationship or anything, do you feel like compromising is good or it's bad, or to a certain extent, it's just a general question before we get into the topic of the day?
Compromise, yeah, sometimes we need for us to, reach agreements or be in cohesive, or be coerced into certain things. We need to reach a compromise to a certain extent, but it should never, you can't compromise to the extent where you lose yourself. I think there should be a boundary to say, I can compromise up to here.
Absolutely true. And I think maybe for women have a tendency of compromise, I think it's just been a trait that has been put in us some way. I don't know, but it's our natural inclination to actually just compromise on certain things. But I see an uprising of a generation that knows exactly what it wants and does not really extremist. It's either we are not compromising or we're extremely compromising. But compromise wants us to be somewhere in the middle there. Yeah. You understand? So
both parties,
I believe in life, all of us need to compromise at some point. Yeah, but not to the extent that you end up losing yourself, like Des has already said. Yeah.
Okay.
When you compromise, one of you never gets what they wanted.
When you compromise, one of you never gets what they wanted. No, I thought compromising is meeting you halfway at least, not a whole way.
Yeah.
So you should be able to get... Unless if you feel now this is no longer a compromise.
Okay, I guess both of you. I guess both of you never get what you never wanted.
No, you compromise. You get half of what you wanted.
And the other person gets 100% of what they wanted.
No, they need to also compromise. They meet you halfway.
50-50, guys.
Yeah.
Not 100.
Yeah, they meet you
but
halfway.
I get what Rororo.
Yeah, maybe we use examples. Sometimes it's easier when you put it into an example. So, what's the compromise? I like to do it in the kitchen and say, okay, care work in the kitchen. I will cook. You can do the dishes. I don't like being in the kitchen. So you can cook. I can do the dishes. So I'm compromising. I don't like to be in the kitchen, but I have to then do the dishes to help you. So I've met you halfway. Is that not a compromise?
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Cool.
It makes sense.
But you didn't
that's a very easy example.
Yeah.
But you didn't want to be in the kitchen.
Yes, but so you ended up doing half of the work that needs to happen in the kitchen.
I mean, then who's going to eat if at all nobody does anything? It needs to be half-half. I don't know if you get what I mean.
Yes.
The ghost lady agrees with me. Yes. So self-identity, Sasha K, can you please tell us what comes into your mind when somebody just says self-identity?
Okay, I think it will take me back to 10-year-old Kitso. When my mom used to make us do this exercise, she would say, "Who am I?" and write it in a piece of paper. And you'd have to draw lines to say, "I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this," right? So identity, self-identity for me is just that one question with 3 words. Who am I?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So your mom has been doing these activities that we now do in workshops.
Yeah. For very long. Nice. At home. That's I guess nice. We're what do they call it? Guinea pigs or something like that.
Miss Sasha, for a bit of context, please tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
Oh, okay. My name is Kitso Kitso, and then I come from Dihawana, raised by a single parent. I am the second of 4, right? 2 girls, 2 boys. I think my mom did a really great job. Kudos to you. And I do a lot of things, actually. I work. I'm an employee. Secondly, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a minister of the word. And I'm also an owner of an NGO.
Yo, guys, power to the women, please.
Yeah. So there's a lot there.
And you also sit on the Men and Boys board.
Yeah.
Were you going to seriously let that go?
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I also sit at the board. Yeah.
No, thank you so much. So, thank you for representing the women and, ensuring that you fill up the different spaces.
Thank you so much.
And Minister of the Word.
That's his favorite, possibly. Yeah. So
I am.
So now back to the topic.
Yeah.
What does self-identity mean to you?
Personally, I believe that through different transitions of life, there's either you're growing, you're losing some things, there's some pruning that happens in your life. But one thing is core. Who am I? As I've already said, it does not say I'm sticking to this version of myself, but it says I'm accepting and growing and learning different versions of myself as well. So identity is, for me, I believe that identity is the first thing that you get to know. Everyone is born into a family. Like it or not, you were born into a family, different circumstances of how you were born or different circumstances of how you actually came to being. But at the end of the day, you are born to parents, firstly. And then you are born because there's a purpose inside of you. So until you realize who you are, you cannot, it's like getting a toaster, not knowing how to use it, but then you realize at some point, did I really read the manual? So identity is that first thing to say, okay, I'm a toaster. What is my purpose?
Yay! Where did you get such a wise thing?
Do you understand? Wow, yeah. I guess my mom has put a little bit of that workshop thing in me. Yeah. But yeah, basically that's that. The first thing to know, if you are a toaster, you can't be acting like a hairdryer, for example. So it gives you that kind of saying, I understand that this is my purpose and I run with this.
But what is important, and I know a lot of people would want to know, how do I know I'm a toaster? How do I find my self-purpose?
Okay, purpose, I think purpose is in the small things that you think don't matter, but are the things that you do without sweating. For example, I believe there's somebody out there who's drawing but is stuck in an office because of somebody who told them that drawing is not going to get you anywhere. But that is what they love. That is where they flourish, So purpose for me is that, I know there are certain things that are my strengths. They come easily to me. I don't have to really struggle, but I just now need to know how to commercialize what's inside of me.
And they give you joy,
fulfillment.
Yeah.
It's called flair.
I also often say, it's something that you do, and you can do for free.
Yeah.
And if you're paid for, then you're blessed.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where the fulfillment comes in. If we're to give you the job that I'm doing, for example, wherever I'm working, if they were to take away the salary out of it, would I still be willing to do it?
I can answer for 60% of the people. They'll be like, no.
So you understand that's where, and this is not to say stop working and just go drawing, but we use our jobs as a vehicle to fuel our passion or our purpose.
Yeah, no, that's true. Though sometimes you'd find out that some people would follow passion, right? And it doesn't work out. And you find out that somebody will be, let's say, working and the job is not like what they like, but it's to fuel their passion.
Yeah.
But the thing is with these two, I feel that it's unfair. I don't know if that makes sense. You know why I'm saying so? Because you'd find out that, I'll give an example, because you are working and then you are fueling your passion, and that passion, maybe you get paid for it, right? You wouldn't mind the price that you're getting paid for because you love it. Then there's this passionate person who's doing this full time and they are charging more than you are charging. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Which makes it a bit of a thing of like, oh, but this person is charging less. You know why they're charging less? Because they have a job and they're fueling their passion with that. But do you understand?
I think that also takes us back to identity, knowing what you are worth at that point. Whether I'm doing this full time or part time, will I still be able to compete with whoever is in the industry?
I won't mind taking you guys a little bit back, but I think it's important that we do that. Does the naming of the child matter and play itself in this?
The name of the child?
Yes.
I think so. I think so.
To a certain extent. I mean, guys, people have names, ne? But you'll find out that some people live, let me just give an example, Tepang. You can trust me, it's fine, like it's trust, right? And then there are some names whereby somebody will name the child
Kidiboni.
Matata.
Bo khating. Guys, wait, before anything, what does tapologo mean?
That's a very tough one.
Happy.
Yeah.
When you are born, you don't know what Tepa means.
Yeah.
What Tepa means gets entrenched into you as you're raised. Right now, I think I'm one of the most loyal people because I know what Ruth means and know what it means in the Bible. But hella,
absolutely.
A few moons ago, when I was ignorant, I don't know. I didn't care. It was just the name I answered to. So it's definitely going to define who you are.
Yeah. And like I had already said, bring us a little bit back to say, everyone has a purpose. And without realizing, we get to somehow, because utla lina la hago libisa all the time, you live up to the name. Unless you make a different decision to say, you know what, kibitso matata, for example, but I will be that person who doesn't bring trouble. Or you could choose to say, matata could be let me bring the real trouble in business, in this. You understand?
In a positive manner.
Yes. It's all about perspective at the end of the day. You understand? Yeah. So I think it does play a role to some extent. It might not be the full way of saying this is my identity, but you identify first by name, by anything else.
So can we deal then with the elephant in the room?
Yeah.
What is your purpose?
For personally. Oh. Oh gosh, that's like putting me on the spot. So years ago, I was actually in a kitchen like this, and as you know, I'm a very spiritual person, and I was on this verge to say, okay, fine. I realized that I love women. I love talking to women, and it's just natural for me to feel towards women. And that day, not to sound like spooky or anything, but understanding, I got to realize that there's a calling upon my life to free a generation of women. and make them understand that you are not disadvantaged because you are a woman. But you've got to understand that as much as the world may seem unfair, you also have to come in and play hard. If the boys are playing rough, let's play rough as well. You understand? So I grew up having so much love for girls. I think maybe because I wanted a baby sister, I never got the opportunity to have a baby sister.
I can be your baby sister.
There we go. You see, so I loved just having girls around and having talks with girls. So for me, I think my calling has a lot to do with women, but I can't bring it to just this one thing of saying, this is it. See, my business, you'd find that I do earrings. That has a lot to do with women. You'd find that another business would be makeup. It has a lot to do with women, but it's women in different ways. So sometimes it comes as though women and freedom of women, but then you also fall short in that space, but then come out and say, okay, but here is, I realized that I can't just be one thing. My mentor usually says that you are not meant for just one thing and you just die, but you may have this one thing that you express in different ways.
I have a question for that. In terms of like doing too many things, don't you think like multitasking sometimes can make?
It's not multitasking. You see, that's the thing that stops people from expressing a lot of things. You may feel like, let me stick to one thing. I remember some girl actually at work said to me, oh, you do a lot of things, you know, I sell t-shirts as well, and she was like, you do a lot of things. Can't you just focus on one thing? I went home, I was pained, for age. These people just feel like this girl is all over the show, and I got home and I realized that I don't want to die with something that is in me, but I haven't expressed it simply because somebody else is feeling like you're doing too much. So it's not an issue of multitasking, but it is an issue of saying, how many times can I find ways to express this?
Nice. Unboxed.
Yeah. Unboxed.
Okay, Sasha?
Yeah.
I heard you mention earlier that you were raised by a single mom.
Yeah.
Has this had any kind of influence in the way you see things and the way you're doing things that you're doing now?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, it has a lot. It has a lot to do with seeing your perspective of life, and I think a few weeks ago, getting triggered, but a few weeks ago, I had a conversation with someone who sort of pointed out something to say, are you acting like this because of this? When you're sharing a fear with someone and they get to say, oh, now this makes sense because of you are raised by a single parent, So our natural thing would be defense, to say, hey, you're not going to make me feel like I'm disadvantaged because I was raised by one parent, But there's absolutely nothing wrong with being raised by one parent, but it in some instances, or in a lot of instances, honestly, it shows.
How?
Kure, a child born into a family where both parents are present. And when I say present, I don't say you are home. You understand? When I say parenting presence there, I'm speaking of somebody who knows that my place in this child's life is being a father, or my place in this child's life is being a mother. There's this facade of a family with two parents, but maybe none of them are present.
Which is true, yeah.
So now for me, I grew up seeing most of my aunts and my mom raising the kids by themselves. So it brought in a tough aspect of me, which makes it even more difficult when you're trying to get into a relationship. You understand? So there's so much that parenting has, even in shaping your identity. So you're surrounded by women who are tough and strong, and then you meet somebody who might not be as tough and strong because they were raised by maybe just their mother, for example. You understand? So that becomes a bit of imbalance where, hey, if you're not going to change this light bulb, I'll change it myself.
I hear you guys, just take the stairs.
You understand? So there is a lot of how parenting brings in this aspect or shapes our identity without us even being conscious of it. Because one, your formative years are with this parent.
True.
You're transitioning even into an adult or a teenager. You are guided by this one person, but you don't see life with the eyes of another person.
Yeah.
So I can I say maybe my mom did a very good job of allowing us to meet our fathers at a very young age. But I did not have a relationship with him. To a point, I resented him. I hated him. But when I was 21, I got to realize, look, girl, you are made up of two people. Those genes that you have in you right now are of two people. So if you understand just one side of things and not understand that there's another side or there's another character, sometimes we find ourselves angry, bitter, but you don't understand that that's your father at play in you. But because you've never met them, everybody's like, why are they acting like this? Because their mother is not like this. But have you studied their father?
Yeah.
So that's now to say, self-identity is not just about me, but it is also about where I've been born. Who am I interacting with? So there are a lot of things at play. And I am really grateful for that question because it makes me reflect on a lot to say, our parents did as much as they could with what they had. But then it brings us to a place of saying, are you going to play victim?
Yeah.
Because I come from this, and I saw one post sometime, you can't be 35 and still be using that as an excuse I came from a single parented family. You understand? So 35 years of your life, you are busy here trying to say my identity is wrong. No, you were born through a family that was chosen for you. If you were born through any other family, life wouldn't be better. So it's firstly just to accept that place and understand that even as we transition, our identity may be shaped by our environments, atmospheres, the people that we meet, and so forth.
Yeah, so coming in there, you understand yourself, you understand your boundaries, you understand your purpose.
Yeah.
Now, society has this stereotype, gender stereotype. You're supposed to be like this as a woman, as a man, I'm supposed to be like this. How then do we navigate ourselves to be able to deal with the gender stereotyping? And maybe you are now in a relationship and Sasha is this person who wants to do business, who wants to do all these things. And you're in a relationship with somebody that probably was also raised by a single parent or was raised by both parents, and you have, your worlds are too different. How do you navigate that space?
I think it will bring us to that word of compromise.
We're going back to it.
Yeah, it will bring us back to compromise. But it will also say you cannot compromise if you don't know who you are and you don't know what extent it is. Like you've brought in a very important aspect of saying society does. But who is the society? You'd find that the society are people, some of who are broken, and this is not to say everyone is like that. Some who are broken, some who have different perspectives of life, some who have been through the toughest seasons of their lives. So you'd find that their voices are louder because, we don't hear much about the planes. One of my life coaches once said to us, you don't hear about the planes that land safely. But you hear more about those that crashed. You understand?
Yes.
So we get to a point where society is now demanding of us what they didn't have, or something that they feel or that society feels is needful. Remember, society is also coming from culture, traditions, religions, etc.
True.
Right. So let me just maybe zoom into a little bit of my life story, So I was, how old was I? Hey, let me not say how old I was then.
Right?
It's a safe space.
For you guys. So in terms of self-identity, right? Let's say you're a Christian. Let's say you're a Muslim. I'm just saying.
Swap.
Yeah.
So that he's Muslim.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I know you're a powerful Christian woman. Okay, so let me say you're a Christian and you're a Muslim, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm just saying, then you guys have to go into a union, right? Are you guys gonna compromise and be like, oh, when you
Quran.
come this side to be a Muslim, or you come this side, or you're gonna be like, okay, you know what? I'm Muslim, then I'm Christian.
But what happens how have people been socialized generally? So you would go to your husband's church?
Yep. To be honest, that's how society
how
right now.
is.
Yeah, usually it is. Yeah, but like, what would you guys do in such a situation?
Hey, it's the how you landed there. It's the how you landed there.
I think before you decide to get government involved and make it official, I mean your relationship, it's things you talk about during your courtship about which direction you're going to take in terms of religion.
Yeah. And it also depends on how entrenched and how, deep I am with that. If maybe I'm Muslim but not necessarily practice, or go to a
or
mosque,
Muslim by birth,
so it also depends. And I think actually the thing is that what makes you happy as a partner, I should be able to say you are happier at your church than me forcing you to come to my mosque and you're not happy.
So are we saying, let's say you are deep inside, deep, and then you are also deep. What's going to happen?
Hey, they can't.
We have to.
But that's where the compromise comes in.
Compromise needs to. Yeah, it needs to
but
come
the
to
truth
play.
is, a deep person. Yeah, it's very difficult to compromise.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's where you might find that she goes to her church, I go to my church.
And then it's just neutral like that. Then we come home, then there's Allah and then there's God. Yes.
Can I interject there, Tepi? You see, with issues like religion, you'd find that people who are deep into a certain religion and another who's deep in a certain religion, it's very rare that you find themselves intertwining in those levels.
Yeah.
Is it?
Because the circles are different.
The circles are different. They're socialized differently. They run parallel.
Yeah.
Of course, there will be exceptions to the rule. I just don't want us to digress from what we're talking about. And spend the next 30 minutes discussing Muslim.
I hear you. I'm just so curious, guys. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
Research.
It's okay.
Maybe let me just zoom into my own personal life and my life story. So, young Kitso met a certain guy who was just after college. I'm sure he was not after college then. He was working at the time. So we're working together at some marketing agency. Fell in love with this guy who happens to be a pastor, right? So mind change altogether. I have to act a certain way because I'm planning to be a mamuruti, right? Yeah. So basically the way I laugh changes. The way I dress changes. The way I do anything changes, hella, because I'm in a relationship with a certain person, right? And in that relationship, it only hit me after the breakup that this is not the me I know. Like, the toaster has changed. It's altogether a blow dryer. And it got me to sit down. I remember going to what's this? BBS Mall, having to sit down with myself at Nando's for the first time, simply because at the time, actually, we were not yet working together. I was unemployed. So I usually say that he was my job. I found fulfillment in being with him. But at the same time, he also had other stuff to do that did not include me, So I soaked myself in an illusion of us so much that I lost I. You understand? Yeah. So I got to a point where after the relationship is over, a few days after that, I actually went and sat at Nando's. I know it was nighttime because I did not want to be seen by anyone. It was my first time going out alone ever since those 2 years of a relationship. I sat down and the waiter asked me, what are you going to have? And in that moment, I was just about to say I'll have what he's having. Only to realize that, hey, fam, there's no other person here, So I had to sit down, look at the menu and say, what do I really like? I went home that night and I was like, I don't know if I like apple juice. I don't know if I really like chicken that much, and that's when I got into a season of, forget the relationships, because I was used to not be in a relationship.
But maybe let's look at this. How did you get there? What caused you to kind of lose yourself? Was it societal pressures? Was it
definitely they had a role to play, because hey, look at her. How is she going to be a Mamuruti when she's dressing that way? How can you speak like that? Ma'am, you are training to be a Mamuruti. You understand? So it became such a fix in my head that whatever I'm doing, remember this is where we're going. You understand? But at some point you get to realize that the other party doesn't think that way. They're just living their best life. They are in the middle of their purpose.
Yeah. But then as a society, how do we then challenge these gender stereotypes?
I think it really just goes back to what I was saying earlier on, to say society is made of people, and broken people speak louder than people who are not broken. Their voices are louder, without even realizing. You find somebody says to you, if you act that way, you're going to end up divorced. If you act that way, you're going to end up. So they are scared of the
judgment.
The judgment and the end result, so much that we don't train our kids in a certain way to control this societal norm. So what is the societal norm right now that our kids have to live in? Because right now we are raising a society without realizing. Conscious or unconscious, you are raising a society. What is the kind of conversation that is going on there?
Sasha's story speaks to the 4 tenets of stereotyping, which are the physical, obviously how you look, the occupational, which job is for a woman, which job is for a man, and the physical appearance of this is how we expect a woman to look, and this is how we expect a man to look. And for herself to have emancipated herself from those grips of what society expects and what she wants to be is what we should be preaching as a society, to end all of this. Because these stereotypes bring about insecurities, issues of control. That's why we end up having so much gender-based violence, because we want to turn people into who we think they should be, rather than finding a place where we complement each other.
But I also want to say, as men, we also have a responsibility in this. We also play a role in this, because sometimes we suffer from the same societal pressures to say, act in a certain way, and I've always talked to young people that are interested in marrying, and they say, what should I do? How should I act so that this woman can believe that I can be able to be that man that I am? And it forces them to be people that they're really not. And then after marriage, then the true colors come out.
And then we say you've changed.
But how important is it? How important is it for you to be yourself as a man? And I think also as a woman, because you shared your story, and it's clear how society was pushing you to be this certain person, and obviously also under the pretense that maybe you might not even get married if you don't do this the same way, and you end up losing yourself.
I think it's the matter of understanding each other, right? Before trying to commit, and then just talking it out, finding the likes and dislikes, and however, knowing each other's identity and knowing how you can be
aligned.
Aligned.
But the truth is, this guy, there was no pressure from him as a person. He did not say to me, you're not going to dress that way. There was no instant where he said, that dress is too short, or no, that hair doesn't suit you, or how can you dress like that when you're going to church? He didn't have that in him. But I personally chose to be to feel like this is what needs to happen so that this happens. Like what Des is saying, we pretend to a certain extent to get into places and platforms that we want to be in, only for us to come back and say, identity is in you. It will always come out. No matter how many times you try and conceal it, it will come out. If you're an angry person, it's gonna take, you can be okay for some minutes, hella, but at the end of the day, you can't be in a marriage for 11 years and your true self does not come out.
I'm going to use this example. I might just get into trouble. But I'm just, as you're speaking, I'm just imagining a woman that has never put on heels.
Yeah.
And because they want to impress, they find themselves in heels. And it's a challenge to even walk at that date.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing that. And where you end up having to remove and say, this is not me. I'll rather just walk barefoot.
Yeah. So it's an issue of, at the end of the day, like you're saying, pretense will conceal. But at the end of the day, identity will come out. So let's have spaces that are safe enough for us to shut the world out. For me to get to a place of self-identity, I had to isolate myself from every other thing. Go to that restaurant alone. Sit in a place and have a solo date. That's what we call it. Travel to a different country alone. You understand? And having to really say, is this really what I want for my future? Is this what I want to live in now? So identity plays a pivotal role, even in the fight for GBV, because if a man knows his place, whether or not I've cooked or I haven't cooked, that doesn't change how things are going to be run, Molaping. So you're not going to come and hit me because you didn't find supper. You'll get home and you'll cook because that's your strength.
Wow. So unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Just one more thing before we wrap up.
No, we've run out of time. Speaking over. Thank you,
okay. While Sasha's partner, what he did was very commendable, but women out there should also be wary of the subliminal messaging that may come from men or women about who you are.
Yeah.
Like when you're going out, are you sure you're gonna wear that? He's not saying your dress is ugly, but he's making you question your decisions.
Absolutely.
It's very dangerous. You
silent.
think you're in control, but you're actually not.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of gaslighting and trying to explain your identity to who you are, but it's very detrimental.
Yeah. The silence that speaks out loud.
Yeah.
Tepi, for you, what's your take home?
Know yourselves, guys. If it means that you need to go to a restaurant alone, as she was mentioning, so that you are able to have the self-love, right? Do it. Get to do things that you love doing, get to know your inner self. Once you know your inner self, you'd be able to know what you want and what you don't want.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for honoring this invitation.
Thank you for
continue
having
doing the great work that you're doing with the girls, with women. Unbox is an opportunity for you to allow them to not be in that box, but be free to do what they want to do.
Such an amazing story. Yeah, before anything, guys, such an amazing soul, such an amazing story. Thank you for coming. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Yeah, I've learned a lot. I've gone through emotions as you're speaking, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, and I'm waiting for that invitation to that church service.
You've been invited for many years, so let's take this offline. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next episode of Unboxed, brought to you by Men and Boys, and of course, you and women.
Woo-hoo. Yeah.